Today is Sunday, July 30th, 2023. This is Sophia Heiken. I am Sherry Aviv. We are conducting this interview in Atlanta, Georgia, the United States. Today is Sunday, July 30th, 2023. This is Sophia Heiken. I'm Sherry Aviv. We are interviewing Sophia in Atlanta, Georgia, the United States. And don't look at the camera, just look at me.
Okay.
Okay, great. Good morning.
Good morning.
So thank you for doing this interview. Why don't you tell me what your name is and if you could spell it for me?
Sophia Heiken, Sophia Hyken.
Okay, great. And was that your name at birth when you were born?
No, it's my married name. My birth is
What is
Simonovsky. Sophia Simonovsky.
Can you spell Simonovsky?
Simanskyi. Guess. I guess.
Did you have any nicknames? Did your parents call you any nicknames or friends or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. And when were you born?
December 9, 1941,
And where were you born?
in Leningrad.
In the former Soviet Union?
Yeah, former Soviet Union.
Okay, great. You in Leningrad, where did you live there? What kind of place did you live when you were born? What was it like?
You mean the location-wise, or we live in pretty much in the center, in what they call communal apartment.
Mhm.
It was 15 rooms. We had 5 people, and we live in 2.
And was that apartment what you remember after the war or before the war? Do you know?
It's only, I don't know what I remember when I was born, because so we after the war we came to this.
Okay, great. So you were a young child. Do you remember before the war playing outside anywhere or having any favorite toys? I know you were very young, but
I was born during the war, so before the war I don't remember.
okay.
After the war, when we come back, yeah, I do remember. I always wanted to be the doctor, so I only played with everything was related to the medicine.
Tell me about your parents. You're born in 1941. Tell me about your father. What was his name?
Abraham Simonovsky.
Can you spell his name?
Avram, I guess.
Okay. And where was he born?
He was born in Belarus.
And how many siblings did he have?
He was the second youngest. So what I knew, being the youngest in the whole generation, he had 12 siblings.
12 siblings, and he was the second youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And were they like 10 years, 15 years apart? Do you have any idea?
It's hard for me to say. No, they'd not been so far, because probably a few years.
And how did your father get from Belarus to Leningrad?
they live in a place, Zlobin. Zlobin was this relatively central place because they had a train going through the Zlobin to Leningrad. With having such a good communication by train, people try to use it. And before the war, it was easy. The youngest brother was adopted by a relatively rich family, probably, who lived in Leningrad. So they have the relationship. They adopted him. He did go to school, probably. And the kids was thinking about that they want to move too. And one day, there's a story what I was told after, definitely, that the train will not anymore stop at certain date in Zlobin. It practically was stopping for probably a short period of time, but so my father decided to run. So he ran, and the stories are the stories. But he was fortunate that the people who was in this cubicle helped me to be incognito, put him on the top, put him under when they're checking the tickets. And he came to, and one of the person who was in the cubicle called ahead to people who adopted them. So they met him, and these people became friends for a long time. So he happened to be, that's only two who happened to be in Leningrad, escaping from Zlobin. That's what we.
How old was he when he came to Leningrad?
How old he was? He was a teenager. He was a teenager. The youngest was older. He was adopted because he did go to. He was probably 13, 14.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to stop. So your father ended up coming to Leningrad to his brother. What was his brother's name?
Michael.
Michael. Did he have a Russian name?
Misha.
Mishna. Very nice. And what did your father do when he got to Leningrad?
You know, this is a good question. He probably did go to school because eventually it was still peaceful time. I really don't have any real idea what year it was. But he grew up from teenager to young man in Leningrad. So he did go to school and college, had a job when the war started.
What did he do as a profession before the war started? What did he do for his job, your father?
He was for the, the Leningrad was the second after Moscow industrial part of Russia. So we had a lot of industries. He worked for industrial. Kirov name was of the Zavod.
Yeah, it was Kira Factory.
Factory. A factory here is a factory once. And they did industrial
They make equipment?
equipment for right, industrial equipment.
And did he have a very important job there? Was he a worker? Was he a manager?
He was a manager.
And did he, do you know how long he worked there before the war started out?
No idea.
So we'll talk about your mother in a minute, but do you know how your parents met and got married?
She lived in Zlobin too, so
Can you say that again?
they lived in the same place in Belarus.
Okay.
So they met as teenagers, I guess, living in the same place.
Okay. So your father was a manager at this factory, and then your parents got married, and then do you have other siblings in your family?
They have.
You're older.
They had. Yeah, I'm the youngest.
Okay.
They
And-
had 3 sons.
3 sons.
3 sons.
Mhm. So here you are. Your father's a manager at a factory, right? And you're living in Leningrad. So who's living in Leningrad before the war? Your father. Who else?
Her father, my mother,
Uh-huh.
and they had the oldest son,
What was
Naum.
his name?
Naum.
Noam. Okay. And then,
I don't remember the second son name.
okay. And then,
And then I don't remember the last one.
did you have a third brother?
Yeah, do I'm right?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you only had 2 older brothers, Naum and then the one that died during the war.
Let's stop. You have. So your father has this manager's job, and did your mother work? Do you know if your mother worked from what anyone told you?
Yeah, probably she didn't.
Okay. So there were 5 of you living in Leningrad right as the war began, and they were.
I was born during the war, so right.
So it was your father, your mother, your older brother.
That's right.
You had another brother,
Right.
and then you.
Right.
So here you are in Leningrad, and what happens next after you were born and the war broke out? Do you know what did your parents do? Did they stay in Leningrad? What did they do?
The first year when they started to, the Germans really started to trying to destroy all the industry. So all the industry was moving to more safe location in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was part of the moving process to relocate the factory.
So he relocated the factory.
He was part of relocating the factory. Right?
And do you know where they moved the factory?
They moved the factory somewhere, Chelyabinsk, was it? Chelyabinsk. It was Ural.
So when they moved the factory, did they still make equipment, or did they do
When
something
they
else?
dismantled and they did not probably just industrial equipment, they moved to make the military equipment.
Okay. And then what happened to you with your mother and your brother when he moved the factory? What happened to you?
My brother was in school, so he ran away and joined the army as a volunteer because he was not old enough. So he was a volunteer and he did go through the army, had his.
So who was left at home when he went off to volunteer for the Russian army?
The second one.
Okay.
He was few years younger, and so every kid was doing something in siege. And they was trying to do whatever.
So your oldest brother Nam went off to fight
Right.
as a volunteer, and your middle brother, did he go off to fight, or did something happen?
He did not go fight. He stayed in Leningrad, but he helped to do whatever is necessary, and they bombed. So he was killed.
I see. He was killed by a bomb.
Not bomb, but well, he was killed by drones. Not right.
So your brothers are off fighting, and now your father's at a factory. Who's left? You and your mom?
Yeah.
And what did your mom and you do? Did you stay in Leningrad? Where did you go?
When that's only one way from Leningrad out. It was Ladога Sea. And when it was frozen, they was trying to what it called road of life. So we've been part of the probably relatively first people who was evacuated.
So your
It's
mother,
practically only me and my mother.
just you and your mother, you escaped Leningrad because why?
No, not because we've been fortunate enough to get on the shipment on the trucks and not be swallowed.
So tell me about the road to life. Can you tell me what that is again? What is the road to life?
No, road to life, it's only what I know, read in the books. The Ladога Sea was, Leningrad had winters. So when it's frozen, we tried to, under the bombs and everything, to put as many trucks, buses, and that's what they called road of life. A lot of transportation was fallen down, a lot of so, but still a lot of.
And you were how old about this time when your mother and you went to Chelyabinsk?
I probably was 4 or something like this.
Do you remember being in a train or a truck, probably a truck going over the
No, I can say I remember because it was written and talking about it so much, so I don't know what I remember. Probably nothing.
Okay. And was your father, do you know if your father was able to get you out that way? Did he have any special privilege to get you out
No, I
early?
don't think he had a special privilege, but probably, I don't know nothing
Okay.
about it.
So you end up taking the road to life by a truck, and where did you end up living um, after you got off the road to life, after you got off the ice bridge?
It was a place named Chelyabinsk.
Okay.
It's a big place where we lived. It's again whatever in this, not in the city, in somewhere close to the city. But
Do you know if it was a house or a farm or an apartment? Do you remember it all?
I just again, if I remember, or I was just remember because somebody told me the stories that we had a cow, so it probably was a farm.
Oh, you had a cow. Did you live with other people, or was it just you and your mother there?
No, it was little. It was little village maybe
Okay.
near the city, like seems like.
Mhm. Do you remember playing there in the field or running, being a kid?
Like being a kid, yeah, I know they would told me the stories as I was lost.
Oh my goodness, what
Right.
happened?
I was lost in the woods overnight. Was probably like every kid want to run away.
So,
And so I was, yeah, it was a story of the family later.
so did your father live with you too? Running the factory? Was the factory in the same city?
No, he didn't live with us. The factory was not, I don't know where was the factory really, but he wasn't living with us. He was all the time working. You dismantle tent and then you need to put and make it run. So I don't mean he was one of them, but every hands count.
Right, every hands count. So when you lived there and you lived in this village, did you live in a house or farm with other people?
It was a lot of people here together.
Do you remember other kids playing with them or doing anything?
Like I say, I'm not sure I remember. I mostly follow what I remember from the stories.
Okay.
So I was lost. I was.
Right. Did you do you remember the type of food that was available there? Do you remember what kind of food they prepared? Any flavors, smells, or dishes you might have had there when you were during the war? Do you remember your mom cooking for you?
No, I don't remember.
So let's talk about your mom. You actually have two mothers, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's talk about your birth mother. What was her name? Your
Esfir, Fira, Esfir,
Esther.
Esther, yeah.
And what was her last name?
Simonovsky.
And
Maiden name, you know.
maiden name, do you know that?
Farber.
Can you spell that?
Farber.
Okay. And Esther, your birth mother, and you went to the road of life to Chelyabinsk. Sure, I didn't say that right. And then you were there a while, and what happened to your mom?
She passed away.
Did you ever hear what she passed away from? Do you Anyone ever
She
tell
had
you?
she had health problems.
Okay. So it's just you and your mom there, and she passes away. Who took care of you? What happened next?
Her sister came. And yeah, her sister came.
And what was her sister's name?
Maria.
And was Maria older or younger than her?
Maria was younger.
Okay. And so Maria came, and did you notice any difference between your mom Esther and now your Aunt Maria? What did you call your Aunt Maria?
I called her mother.
And was she your mother, as far as you knew?
Yes, she was my mother as far as I knew, right?
So she comes and takes care of you, and she's your mother and your aunt at the same time. And when did you learn that Maria was not your mother but your aunt?
Really, after we came back to Leningrad, neighbors said.
Neighbors told you?
Neighbors told me. I'm not sure is that, it's all mixed. It's hard to say now because so
Long ago.
right, so long ago, who knows? Think neighbors was asking me, how is your teta doing? How is she treating you good? Who is teta? Who is aunt?
So here you are.
I was very upset. But no,
How old were you when you learned?
We came back as soon as it was possible to come back after the liberated Leningrad.
So let's go back to Leningrad, where you are. Here you are. Your mother passes away. Maria comes becomes your mother. And when did you go to school there? Did you do anything special in that village while you were there that you remember?
No, I didn't go to school. I was too young.
When did you hear with your family, do you know, when the war ended? Were there any parades or celebrations that you remember?
Back in Chelyabinsk? No, I don't remember.
Okay. All right. So what happened when it was time to leave? Do you remember leaving? Did you pack a suitcase?
I remember that's I probably remember good. Or again, maybe it's stories, but it was a picture even. It was really hard to get. We did go by the train right back, long train, and on each station and they put me through the window, and again, it's probably true because it was a story of a family for years and years that somebody put me through the window because it was so right.
So
and
the train was so crowded,
right,
put you
and my
through the
mother
window.
and my mother was still trying to get, and I was through the window asking, didn't you forget my, what do you call it?
Lipstick.
Lipstick.
So you like to wear lipstick as a young
So I
girl.
guess, don't forget my passport and lipstick.
How old were you when you came back to Leningrad?
I was born in 41, war ended in 45, so probably 5.
Okay. So when you left, a lot of people were heading back to Leningrad.
That's right.
You said the trains were very
The,
crowded.
the trains was very crowded and might be not straight to Leningrad, maybe to different places, but trains was very, very
What
crowded.
did you do for food? Did they have food for you? Did your mother have to make food for the train? Do you know how long it took? Did it feel like days or?
I don't remember.
Okay, it's okay.
It's
So
mostly the stories.
you come back and it's you and Maria, and where do you go when you come back? Where do you go live when you come back to Leningrad?
It happens that our house was not destroyed.
So you went back to the same
To the same
Apartment?
apartment.
and just you and Maria. And where was your father?
He was still working.
So here you are back. You're 5 years old. Do you remember entering the apartment? Do you remember anything about the building or the outside?
No.
So I'm going to ask you what you may know about this. It's okay if you don't. Do you know if you knew you were Jewish as a little kid? When did you, because you're in.
You know, I had to say, because do I remember? No, I don't remember. I remember when it was time to get the passport, so 16. This is I remember. Because, you know, the life already was normal and everybody was back. And
So when you were 16 years old.
when get the passport gives you your nationality.
I see.
Before it's kind of no.
So before you were 16, you did not know you were Jewish?
I was sure that I know, because 16, the lady who runs the office, she was a friend of my father. And she said, let I put the Russian.
Okay.
And he asked me, what do you want? I said, never.
So I'm going to go back a little bit. So here you
This
are.
I remember, because the later we talk about it, and he said I was sure that she's not going to change anything.
I see. So you go back with Maria to the apartment, and when did your father return? Do you remember?
I don't remember the exactly details, but probably pretty soon, because they started to.
And then what happened since Maria was your aunt? What happened? Did she stay? Did she leave? What happened with Maria and your family?
They married. She married my father, and they had 2 more kids.
Okay. So you're in this apartment, the 3 of you, and you had 2 more siblings. Do you know their names? And what were their
Sure,
names?
this is after war.
Yes.
Benjamin and Anatoly.
Okay.
And Anatoly.
So you're 5 of you in this apartment. Can you tell me what the apartment was like? How many rooms was it? Bedrooms? What did it look like?
The whole apartment had, I don't know, 15 probably families.
The whole building had 15?
Not the building, the apartment.
Okay.
It probably was few apartments, 1 restroom and 1 bathroom for 15 families.
So everybody shared, you said, a bathroom, and what else did they share?
And the restroom and the bathroom.
A kitchen?
And the kitchen.
Okay. And so these 15 families?
We did not know anything different, so it was great.
And how many rooms did you and your family have?
We had 2 rooms.
Okay. 5 people. And
Yeah,
what were the sleeping arrangements? Did you and your brothers share a room? Did they make up a separate room for you?
no, separate not, but we we did not have, distinguish that's the dining room and that's it. It's all been,
All
I
right.
don't remember all this. I only remember when I was older. I stayed I stayed late at school, and I would come home and take a nap. And then when everybody goes to bed and quiet, because it was always tumult, you know, everybody had friends, and so it was a bunch of kids. And then I would wake up and do my homework. This I already remember.
Very nice. Okay. Stop. So when you come back from Leningrad, Maria, now your mom, I'll call her your mom, and your dad married and have 2 more children. And then you started going to school.
Yeah.
Right? And um, were what were the schools like at that age? Was it just girls together or boys together, or was it co-ed, or what was
No,
it
it
like?
always was squared.
Okay, all right. And as your family grew, 5 of you, were you eligible to have a larger apartment by the government? How did people get apartments at that time? Were they owned by the government, or did
Yes.
you own them?
They've been owned all by the government.
Okay. Were they free? Do you know if your parents had to pay rent?
They did not pay rent, but they pay communal gas, that's everything for this, what we pay here.
Taxes?
I guess I don't know all the details.
all right.
Because
So with 5 of you, were you eligible to have a bigger apartment, or was 2 bedrooms a very big apartment?
2 bedrooms probably was relatively big.
Okay.
To get, it's a probably the same kind of variation like here. So many square foot for person. So I don't know what was too much, too little, but we lived for many, many years.
Okay. So this building that had 15 families, what were they like? Were they Jewish? Were they Christian? Were they no religion? What was that like in the building?
We did not have a religion as a religion, but we had few Jewish families, and we knew it, and we have been close. But when you're a kid, it really doesn't matter. When you're a kid, it matters later. But no, we had a passport, which we was getting at 16, and there was a
Right.
line number 5, nationality, which was
So,
same.
let me ask this question then about the passport. So you were 16, and why were you getting a passport?
Because you're 16.
So when you're 16, everybody has to get a passport?
Yes.
I see.
It's your face, and it's like a driving license here.
I see. Okay. So you get your passport, and you discover that you're Jewish for
No,
the
I knew
first
that
time?
I'm Jewish.
Okay. And if you knew you were Jewish, did you have anything any celebrations, anything?
Absolutely, we've been following whatever, right.
What type of things did you do?
We did have a Passover. We follow Jewish holidays as much as we could.
Okay.
I don't remember it now. Was it really secretly or not? Because I don't remember it now. Probably because at 16, I think we had one synagogue, the central for foreigners, always, in good time and bad time. Now it's the same thing. This is a Jewish temple in Leningrad, in terrible shape, but it's only for foreigners. They do matzah. They bake matzah. They did probably before too.
And they were permitted to stay open, the synagogue in Leningrad?
I don't know remember what they stay open. They stay open. The world need to know that everything all right. It's no. So do they stay open? They stay open, yeah. Don't know if some people come in or not. But when I was ready to get my passport and had the line number 5, some people would probably pay a lot of money to change it. And my father had a lady who was doing all the passports. And she says, I'm not going to charge you money, but I can help you. I'll do it for her. It doesn't even need to, might shut the name, last name, or might leave it like it is, but I'll put it that she's Russian.
But you chose to keep it
And
Jewish.
right, and I chose to keep it.
So
My father came to me and asked him, do you want to do it? And I said, no, never. But and then we discussed what he said, I knew that you're not going to.
So let's go back a little bit. So before that, you come back to Leningrad, and you're back in your old apartment. And because of the war, what was food like? Did you feel hungry? Did your family have enough food? What do you know about food?
I just very good remember that my mother was a good, she was always bake cakes, pies. It's a lot. We always had it because we had 3 kids. Everybody gets friends. Everybody comes when it's pie or cake or something.
Did you help your mother shop? Did you have rations or coupons that you had to shop with?
I don't think so.
Okay. So did you feel like the family had enough food?
Probably didn't bother me. I don't know. We probably.
And when you went to school, did you bring your own lunch? Did they provide food? What was life like for you as a young child?
No idea.
Okay. So when you got older and you got your passport and you put down Jewish, did you get treated differently because you had Jewish in your passport?
Not in school. As a system. Maybe some teachers showed, but yes, actually, because I was staying so long, and I was part of every activity, and I was trying to. I was doing them. How do you call that? Кукольный театр.
Some kind of puppet theater?
Puppet theater, right. What was always good in Russia, and up to date, compared to United States actually, for the kids' education, activities and everything was free. always. And it was the Palace of Pioneer. The Palace of Pioneers is called.
Uh-huh.
They had everything. And you can go and play, you can learn, you can dance, you can do everything, at least before I immigrated. And I was in puppet theater quite a few years. By the time been good enough to go overseas with present, Jewish didn't part of it.
So you were part of the puppet theater,
Right.
and they traveled.
Yes, probably a
to
few years. It was not
performance.
16, it probably was.
Right.
But yeah, it was not secret. It's not because you're bad, it's because, you can go. But
In terms of, were you restricted in any other courses of study, or how did you use your passport when you were 16?
Not in school.
Okay. How did you use your passport?
No use, just the same thing like everywhere. You at a certain age, you get something.
I see. Okay. Stop. Okay, so you're 16, you get your passport. What subjects were you interested in high school? What subjects did you like?
Remember I mentioned that I wanted to be a doctor and only a doctor?
Okay.
And it comes probably not just because talking about living in this huge place where we come back all together with whatever families, and talking about being Jewish, the whole thing was like our foyer parts. Here in our building, it's for security reason. Every part is separated from another.
Okay.
For security reason, because if the alarm goes off, the gates open up, fallen down. So that's why I'm saying we had probably where we lived, it probably was servant quarters, because they were separated by blocks.
So are you saying that in your apartment building there were 15 units, but they had gates separating each unit?
They probably been better units or not, probably servants lived there. Okay. Before it was converted to use by regular population. And like we live in the middle, and it's been 2 Jewish families. And it was later when I remember this, May 1st, big holiday.
Russian holiday?
Okay. Soviet holiday.
Soviet holiday?
There's a parade, this is everything. So if I was probably 5 or 6 this time, I wanted always to go to parade. And this one Jewish family we've been very close. But another family in the same part they didn't have the children. It was very strange kind of family. They always, first they would put light off. And they always had the chicken soup in the morning. First thing. The kitchen was half a mile away. And May 1st, I'm running back and forth, go out, and they carry this pot of chicken soup, and it goes on me. it goes on me. And I don't know how my mother and actually her sister saved me, because I was in hospital, all, but they did not let. They took me back home, and they did take all the bandages off, and they put day and night honey on me.
So this is when you first got back from Leningrad. You got
But that's the
scalded
first. That's the first. We're talking about
yeah,
how I wanted to be a doctor,
right.
where it came from.
I see.
But it is a big part of everything.
Mhm.
How my mother had the courage to not to follow the doctor's orders with her sister. They, can you imagine if it's a born body, puts all this fabric and gets, so they washed it out, everything. And day and night was sitting, putting honey on me. I remember they've been telling me that later that somebody did go to the villages to buy natural honey.
I see.
And they survived. And nobody believes this is possible. The doctors could not believe that I don't have anything on my face.
Right.
I was completely burned, the whole body. So after I got, cured, I only wanted to be a doctor.
I see.
So it's not comes just from imagination.
And were you being there? Did you have to apply to a special high school to be a doctor, or were the high schools the same for everybody?
No, it's not high school, it's university.
Right, before you went to university.
High school goes by location.
By vocation.
By location.
Location.
Right. Each school has certain radius of square. Like this, Fulton County.
So you're very interested in being a doctor in the sciences, and just in a curious question, the Soviet Union was interested in space. Do you remember when they launched Sputnik in Soviet? Did they celebrate launching us?
Yes, it was a celebration. It was very special. Sputnik Gagarin первый был, да? Who was the first?
Sputnik. Yeah. Do you remember that moment when that happened? Did they advertise it or talk about it?
No, it was a huge thing, yeah.
So you want to be a doctor, you've studied. What was it like to go to college? Did you have to apply to college? Were you allowed to go anywhere you wanted? How did that work?
That's the childhood finished for me, because I never experienced anti-Semitism before, practically.
But how did you get to
personally?
Right. Did you
how you get to college?
Applying to college?
How you didn't get to college? You except the puppy show, but I didn't really. No, you go to school, you graduate. This time it was 10 years. Later it was 12. You graduate, depends how you graduate, where you want to go, you choose. Some go and some don't.
What did you choose?
I chose medical school. I can't say that I experienced anti-Semitism particularly, but the school, we had 3 medical schools. First, everything, it's the best. And then pediatrics, and then something else. I can blame that they been anti-Semitic, but it was known that the director of the school was saying, I don't have the anti-Semitism in my school. I made it very simple. Jews don't go on my territory. So I don't have it. It's no discussion. They just don't go.
So, but
But I can say it because I apply, I was stubborn. Everybody was telling me to go somewhere, go to the pediatric. No, I don't. I want to be there. I was not accepted, not because something. I was just, to be in medical school, you need to have eye vision corrected by the glasses, because everybody goes to war. Mine was not corrected. Nobody didn't know that I have vision problems. So I was just, I can't be accepted because of the vision. So, but I don't know what would happen if I would apply for another school. Probably wouldn't be accepted by the same reason, not because it's Jewish. But already time passed to do anything. When I graduated high school, apply, was not accepted, did not know about it. What to do?
so where did you go?
I did go all of a sudden in the paper, somebody from my friends, somebody says, see, in this paper, they're saying, so whoever, it was already probably few months in the summer, something, everything over already. Some technology, technical school practically, takes without exam everybody who was not accepted for whatever and had the good grades. I did not want to do anything with chemistry, period. But then, what to do? I'm not here, I'm not there, so I'm not going to lose anything. So I was accepted. I did take, and it was 3 years, 2 years or 3 years, I don't remember. It was mostly from out of the city.
So what happened was you applied to medical school and you were rejected
I was rejected.
because you were Jewish.
Not because I was Jewish, because I did not qualify by my
for your
vision.
eyes, sorry, for your eyes. And then did you have to wait a year before you could go to chemistry school?
I would have to wait a year to apply to another school.
I see.
But then,
did you,
the technical school, college in
Right.
technical school is a different level.
correct.
So we decided that I will go to technical school because at least I get something. And then in the way of this, I said, okay, I will do medical research. I'll use the chemistry to do medical research. And this, this was easy.
So you went to technical school for 3 years, you said?
2 years.
2 years. And that was not in Leningrad?
No, it was in Leningrad. Everything was fine.
Okay.
Till the graduation day. That's the life started.
Right. Are you married yet?
Yeah, I'm married. I already have a child.
Okay, so when you went to technical school, were you single or were you married?
Yeah, I was single. I married later.
Did you marry after school?
During the school, probably. I don't
During
know.
the school. Okay, so you graduate and
No, I was not married.
Okay.
I was not married. I graduated, and then it's
And
another
then
story.
what happened? Did you try to get a job?
And then when I graduated technical school, you get a job. Usually, people from was 3 years, I guess. Uh, People from different places come in to choose who they want, and they come in with a list. Okay, we have an opening at Coca-Cola. We have an opening this and this, the same thing. And I look at the list, and I knew what I wanted.
What was that? What did you want?
It was one of the best research places, Academy of Science, and I was in the part of 5. So first comes out all girls and all Jewish.
Can you say that again?
I was number 5
To be interviewed
on the list.
On the list.
Before me, all girls and all Jewish.
We're not Jewish.
One not Jewish.
One's not Jewish.
Right. And we're all friends. First comes out rejected anything because she does not live in Leningrad.
Okay.
No. The second is taken, what she wanted. She's not Jewish. The third is not taken. She does not live in Leningrad. She needs to have. And then I'm coming. Before, one of the bosses comes, get us few together and said, don't even apply this, and this. They're not going to take you. I said, why? Because they're not taking Jewish girls. No, if you want to put a fire, you give something to burn. Then eventually I come in and I say, want this place, la 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 la. The lady who is part of the administration who comes to says, I can't take her. I need boys.
So when you were
Anyway, I was accepted.
So when you interviewed for this research job, you applied anyway, even though they told you not to.
That's right.
Because you were going to try no matter what.
Doesn't matter. They have an open space.
Right. And they ended up taking you?
They taken me, but because it was a fight. They ended up because they'd been taking me. But they did not give me a job for 6 months.
So they hired you.
They did not hire me.
But they didn't really want you.
That's right.
So they just took your name only and gave you nothing
That's right.
to do.
That's right.
To avoid a fight.
Go take vacation, do this.
Did they pay you?
No, they didn't take me.
So
They
how did
didn't
you
pay
get
me.
the job in 6 months?
In 6 months, if you want to fabricate something, here or there or that, it would be fabricated. One of the bosses on the factory I had a practice, all of a sudden I slept during the night when I should be. I came home and I said, what am I going to do? My father says, you're going to do what you're supposed to do. You will go to committee of party, you're going to do this and present it. make it public. I said, I can go.
So you didn't get in.
I
and
did not get
but
in.
you did the
Illegal,
chemistry work.
illegally.
You did the work anyway.
No, I did not. I'm not accepted. But then, because of the fight, she says, okay, she signs the papers. But she was not planning to take me. So I have a job and I don't. And every time something. Then it's a group, it's not that her, it's politics. So somebody from the practice when I was before in school sent her a letter. After all, before he gave me the best recommendations, then situation changed. I need to become the bad girl. So he sends the letters. She can, she calls me and said, I can't, you see. You had worked at this factory, and you see the letter from him? He said, you didn't do a good job. You slept during the night when you're supposed to. I come home, and my father said, what are you going to do? Don't know.
What did you do?
I did do what I supposed to do.
Which was what?
Which I did go to the to the boss, like president of Coca-Cola, for example,
Okay.
on this level.
And you went to him, and what did you say?
I came to the office of his, to the secretary, and I said, I need to have an appointment with Coca-Cola president. She says, what's the problem? I said, I need to speak him personally. She says, fine, but he is somewhere on the trip. I will give you a call, leave your name and everything. And I call regularly. My father said, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. Only you. I was 15. Because you didn't go to school, you graduated. Or 16 maybe. And so I called regularly to secretary. And one of the days, she calls me and she says, you can come. I come to the office of the president. We have it here, it's a huge company. It's a huge. And she says, somebody long time ago applied for employment with you. And, she's here. I said, call her in. I came, he looks, smiles, laughs, and sighs, accept. So I'm accepted. Then I don't have a job for a few months. Eventually, somebody calls me and says, comes tomorrow, fast. She got sick. I got a job. I got a job, everything was fine. I worked with really nice lady. I did my research, have a lot of publications. But I already married, and this boy started to get sick. Every time I'm out, they check everything. Eventually got to me to the conditions that I applied to quit. I applied, I filed I applied that I quit before because my son's sick and I can't work full time.
Okay,
They waited for this.
So, to recap, you fought hard to get this job, and you got the job, and then in between you got married, and then you quit because...
I got the job and everything was fine,
Right.
I work hard and nobody the vein. If you got in, you walk. But then, when I started to take time off to take care of it, they checked every bulletin.
I see.
They checked every day when I'm off.
Right.
Eventually, I just tired of it.
So
So this was what you call anti-Semitism.
I
If
see.
somebody is open, nobody cares, and it's true.
So you experienced it in getting the job and really keeping the job like anyone else. So let me ask you this. You got the job, you were coming out of school and you fought for it. How did you got married during that time? What was your first husband's name?
Boris,
Boris, his last name?
last name Hyken.
Heiken. And how did the two of you meet?
How did we meet?
How did you meet your first husband?
Through friends.
Okay. And you got married. Did he work as well?
Yeah, sure.
What kind of work did he do?
He worked for what he did.
Was he like a technician?
Technician for
Electronic technician?
what's technician?
Electronics?
Electronics, yeah.
Okay. And about what year did you get married? Do you know? How old were you? When
64.
So you got married in 64.
Right. And I only remember you
Okay.
those.
So you got married in 64 and you had this job and you ended up quitting because of all the reasons you shared. And did you have any children?
Yeah, we have one son.
One son. What was his name?
Edward.
Okay. And where did you and your husband and your son live? Did the government give you an apartment? Did you find one? Where did you live as a family?
No, yeah, by this time I already had my own apartment.
Okay. And was it like your family home where families shared?
No, it's my own apartment.
And did it have its own kitchen and bathroom, or was it
Yeah,
shared with the building?
one bedroom apartment.
Okay. So the three of you live there.
It's the same thing. Like it's cooperative. It's just started in this time. So I worked. My parents. I contributed to family part, and then I contributed to myself. So I saved for down payment, and I had my own apartment.
So did you own the apartment, or did the government?
No, I own apartment.
Okay.
It's just started this way. Just started. That's
own
you.
the
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So after you quit work, what year was your son born?
67.
67. So after you quit work, did you stay home and raise your son? What
No,
was it like?
I already got. I did go to Institute of Technology, continuing with chemistry, on evening time.
Okay.
So yeah.
Take a break a minute. So let's talk about your marriage for a minute. When you got married, was it what kind of wedding was it? Was it a party wedding, or how did marriages occur at that time?
Different. It's no rules, but we did marriages. We had a party. Yeah, we did go. We did go through the what they call ZAGS.
Was
It's like a city hall. It's
like city hall first, and then you.
So you
Дворец бракосочетания. No, anyway, yes, yeah, city hall, and then city
was your
hall.
husband Jewish?
Yes.
Boris was Jewish?
Yes.
So did you have any type of Jewish ceremony getting married privately hidden? Did you do anything?
No,
Okay.
I don't think they.
No chuppah, no breaking of the glass.
No.
Were you permitted to have a Jewish wedding, or was
At
it
home,
at home? And
Sure.
but you didn't do that, or you
No.
did? Okay. So you got married at City Hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Change the passports and everything. Driver license.
Right.
No, we didn't have a car, so why we call
You
it
changed your
driving.
passport names for your
Right.
married name.
Right.
And then did you move into your apartment because you owned it?
Yes,
Okay. All
he
right.
moved to me.
Okay. Okay. So you're married, you have one child. What was life like in general in Russia? Was there still enough food? Was there other things going on at this time in 1967 or so? You have a young child. What was life like at that time in Russia?
No, everything was fine.
Were you
We
happy?
didn't know anything else. Everything was fine. You know, it's
Okay.
not like.
And you said you started working. Who took care of your child when you were at work?
No, when he was born, I was staying home. I was between jobs. I didn't have a job yet, but I had a college. In between, I got I practically didn't have college yet.
Okay.
I had technical school.
Right.
So I applied to college and did take classes at night. So I stay home, and then it was time for him to go to childcare. And it took time. Being Jewish, you don't remember.
Okay.
When we moved, no, it's not this one. No, when we moved, when I on the same level, another couple moved in, Jewish guys, we're friends till now, and she was always showing him that we would get in the bus when he was little, and he would stay around and would say, "Faniki, don't push my mother."
So you said that life was changing and you could buy your own apartment in Russia.
It was time
Why-
when it started to.
Why do you think that happened? The government was letting more things happen at that time?
I don't know what the government was. I was not thinking about it, but it was like you save money, you put down payment, and everybody was, because people realize at this time that it's way of life. Nobody wanted to live and share a one bedroom and one bath with 40 other people.
So here you are, you're back at school.
I actually was graduated. I make money. I do this, and my parents was well enough not to ask me to contribute everything in the pot. So I did contribute something. The rest, I was saving.
Right. So after you go back you go to technical school, you go to college, you get all of that, and your child's in childcare, and then an incident happened in Russia called the Leningrad 12. You remember that, with the hijack?
When we...
Can you tell me about that?
I'll try. When we lived, and I was still staying home.
Okay.
And
you were staying home taking care of your son,
right,
Ed.
Right.
Okay.
The houses stay like one house here, another here. On the balconies, you see what you have, another family has for breakfast or
Okay.
something, especially with the kids. So we got friends with couple of families who had the same kids. In 1 year, we did rented this countryside to be out.
A place in the
A
country.
place in the country too, because
Okay.
the kids was about the same age. And we not been close friends, but and then every time when for the country they come, they always kind of looking for privacy. And then we started to hear the news. But my mother accidentally knew his mother. They worked together. And she says, did you hear that they involved in this fight for freedom? They wanted to take the plane to Israel.
This is your.
I am saying good.
No, no.
I'm talking
Let's
this
just stop.
like
Let's
it
just
is.
stop,
It.
stop. Okay. So for the Leningrad 12, it was Jewish families or people that were fighting for their freedom.
It's a group of people who was fighting for their freedom. They've been all what they call it kazniki, this word that you apply for whatever reason they refuses.
Refuseniks.
Mm-hmm. And they've been fine. They hijacked the plane.
And where did they hijack the plane to? Were they successful?
I don't remember, yeah.
Did they?
I don't remember. They did not go straight from Israel. They did
Okay.
go through Greece, I think. But they ended up in Israel because the uncle did not go. So they did not share. We kind of
Right.
realized it later that we've been part of the group.
So you mentioned you had other Jewish families in the building. Was Leningrad, even though there was, as you shared, not religion except on your passport, was it a very big Jewish population
Yeah.
there?
More than anywhere.
And you did some holidays, but it was hidden. Did you do holidays with your son as he got older? Did you do any like Rosh Hashanah or Shabbat
No, we did not.
dinners?
We didn't. We did, if you need masa, you kind of have places in synagogue, and some people they bake it for you.
If
But
you
it
needed
was
matzah.
unofficial.
Other really
unofficial.
not very much. Did
So all the families, they knew some more, some less. Officially not. Officially we did not celebrate.
mainly
It was
just-
not holiday that you off of work.
so just matzah was really
Right.
the main symbol.
That's the symbol just belong to something.
Did you privately celebrate the Jewish New Year at all? Did you know what Rosh Hashanah was? Did you celebrate it?
No.
Okay. Did anybody teach you, or did anybody around you speak Hebrew or Yiddish with all the Jewish families?
My family always speak Yiddish.
Spoke Yiddish. Did you learn Yiddish?
Understand. I don't speak, but they don't. That's the problem. They couldn't have any secrets, especially girls. They pick up.
Right. So your family had that background. Did your brothers have a bar mitzvah? Did they?
In Russia, we didn't have anything.
Okay. So it's Your son is born in 1967. People are starting to protest the Leningrad 12 and this term of refusnik. What started to happen? What started to happen that you wanted to leave Russia? What changed for you that you wanted to leave Russia and come to the United States? What happened?
Before these years, we practically could not do anything. When it's the movement started to leave, we knew that
What
we
changed
wanted.
in Russia that you could start to move? What was different? What opened up?
Opened up immigration.
When did that happen?
When did that happen? Maybe 78?
Okay.
78, yeah. The first one was 78.
And did you want to leave?
Yes,
Why?
because we wanted to live, absolutely. We personally lived by the first visa. I didn't have any visas. I didn't have any invitation. I did go through everything to get one.
Did you always want to leave Russia?
As far as started immigration, yes.
And where did you want to go to? Did you want to go to Europe? Did you want to go to Israel? Did you want to go to the United States? Where did you want to go?
We would go to Israel, but by the time I would go to Israel.
So what was it like to apply for a visa? How do you apply for a visa? Do you have to have a sponsor? How does that work there?
You know what? It's such a complicated thing because.
So let me ask you this. So you were there with your husband and your son, and did any other family member leave Russia before you did?
Yes, sure.
Who left?
My two brothers.
Where did they go?
They go to the United States.
And do you know when they left for the United States?
78, first one, and then 79 probably.
So both of your brothers were able to get out right away.
No, it was not so simple, but they got away. Yeah.
How about your father?
My father, it's another story. It would not be. By the time in 78, my mother passed away in 70. What was I? In 87. What? 74. My mother passed away in 74. So my father was living with us. By this time, we already have not one bedroom, we have 4-bedroom flat because we changing. So he lived with us. My youngest brother was married not to Jewish lady, and she didn't want to go. So they divorced, and he started to apply every time, was getting refused.
Your father applied every time, or your younger brother?
Not
your brother.
My brother. He did not accept to being refused because he didn't have any children. They divorced. He left everything what they had to her, but for whatever reason, just my father lived with us. He was not healthy person, and one day I come home, and by this time I already did not work here because I had to quit. Was giving me such a hard time. And he said, "I'm leaving. Where you going?" "To Israel."
This is your brother,
My father.
your father.
I said, "A little bit explanation. Can we have an honor to have it?" Somebody called from immigration and says, "We're not going to let your son live if you're not going with him." My father said, "I live with my daughter and grandson and family. I did not see my son for a long time. We don't have agreement in life. So I can't do it, and I'm sick, and I'm old, and so and so. It's fine, but your son can't live with father and go somewhere else. He need to take you with." So by the time I'm back from home, he said, "I'm living with Talay. Few days, 5 days." What a country.
Did they go to Israel from there?
No, they did come here, but the way how did come. And my father need to go to sign the papers. He had so many heart attacks that nobody knows. The emergency vehicles don't leave. I'm telling them that, guys, he doesn't have a passport. He's living, and we need to do something.
And why? So he's going to leave for Israel with your
No,
youngest-
we all immigrated by Israeli visa.
Right, but he left earlier than you. Your father.
He left with my brother.
Right.
So eventually, my younger brother goes to Moscow to the consulate and find anything. My father in the hospital. I go on Saturday in terrible condition in the hospital. I go on Saturday and steal him.
So that he
Physically steal him.
Right.
My sister-in-law, my oldest brother Naum, comes, and we steal him. And next morning we put him with Italian airplane, because the idea was here, I die anyway. If I be so fortunate to get to Vienna, I'll go to the hospital. If I get so fortunate to get to Rome, I will.
So your father took this
That's right.
exit, even no matter how sick he was, you
When-
kidnapped him
When
from
next,
the hospital.
when next day
Right.
kidnapped, right? When next day, Monday, I go to the hospital to the doctor and say, "Don't look for him," He said, "No, you out of your mind completely. You don't know." I
Right.
said, "Could you put him new heart? What could you do?" He said, "No, I couldn't do nothing. You even don't know how many heart attacks he had. He just lives on." So United States gave 7.5 years.
So when he and your younger brother left, their original visa was to Israel, but they went to Vienna.
No, it was the usual way.
And in Vienna, they could choose or somehow get picked to go to the United States.
Yeah. because already relatives have been here.
So your father and brother are already in the United States, and you're still in Leningrad with your husband and Ed, and you wanted to leave. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely.
So how long did it take you to apply for a visa and get accepted? And did you need a sponsor?
By this time, everything has changed.
Tell me how.
Everything has changed, but because before we could sponsor, find the sponsor or whatever in any visa, just the visa. Now everything changed. You need to have invitation from your relative in Israel. That's it. Invitation from your relative.
That's it.
That's it.
So who invited you? Your brother, your father?
No, they can't. They're not in Israel.
Oh, so the invitation had to
From
come
your
from
relative.
in Israel. Your invitation had to come from a relative in Israel.
Absolutely.
So-
Somebody who, a relative, sponsor, or really, you can't,
So you could only
because
emigrate
you know
to Israel.
we've been
Right.
sitting in the kitchen whole nights and making the stories, my aunt, my blah 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 blah, you know,
So,
and then it's all ended. So how you can go to your aunt who immigrated 50 years ago somewhere, and no, anyway, so it's not started another story. If it wouldn't be my father, we wouldn't make it.
so your father and brother were able to leave and eventually get to the U.S.
Yes.
And you needed an invitation from a relative in Israel.
That's right.
And
Relative with the same name, or
and
somebody
did you
is
find
put in-
somebody who would do that for
Yes.
you?
God help me. It's just only our father.
Excuse me?
It's just my father could do it.
Your,
No, and with God's help, definitely.
so your
but
father found someone
He
to
speaks
do
perfect
this.
English and everything, so he found through the generations, through the Jewish community center, through a lot of somebody who had the same name. But he did not do it. He said he was old man and he was worried that it's happened that we will come really, and he had to support us. And so we started again. Then the rules changed again. We started again something. And it just, and I was trying to find his guy, his son, but didn't find. And eventually we got it. For everything was just, the God is on my side, on our side, because all of us, one day his son with the same last name and everything comes and says, what's this papers? And father explains that's what it is, but I don't want to do it because then she will come and I'll have to support her. Right. And his son sent the invitation.
Very good. So you get this invitation, and who is the invitation for? Is it for you and your son and your husband? Who is the invitation?
I already don't remember because we probably been by this time divorced.
So who did you and your son leave together to come for this invitation?
Yes.
Okay. And not your husband?
No.
Okay. So when you get this invitation, what do you have to do? Do you have to give up your money? Did you have to give up your possession? What were you allowed to take with you when you get this invitation?
We could take something. No, not money, not anything. And it goes through. First, we need to go through our channels. They might say, come on.
So once you get the invitation, you have to go to the government and see if
the
they'll let you
interesting
go?
thing, that's invitation. invitation did not get in our mailbox. It did get in neighbors from another building.
I see.
You know, everything is secret. And then the neighbor brings me this.
So once you get the invitation, do you still have to get approval from the Russian government to leave?
Definitely, we still go through the government to get out.
And how long did it take from the time you got the invitation till the government said you could go?
It might take a different time.
How long did it
it
take
might-
you?
Oh, it take us, do you remember? How did it take us?
So your son was what, 12, 13, 14 years old when you were leaving?
That's about it, yeah.
How did you tell him? Did he want to leave too?
He was knew everything with a team.
Did he want to stay because that's all he knew, or was he?
Why
ready
he
to
wanted
go?
to stay? He had his portion of anti-Semitism already. Why he wanted to stay?
He had his what?
His portion of anti-Semitism.
Oh, his portion of anti-Semitism. Well, we'll ask about that. So when did anti-Semitism start to increase even more in Russia during this invitation time, or everything was like it always is?
I don't know. I don't know.
Was it important for you to marry a Jewish person, or it didn't matter? You just,
No, absolutely.
it was important.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So you get this invitation and you get approval from the government. Did you have to pay the government to leave? Did you have to give them money to leave?
Yeah.
And luckily you had the money to do that?
Yes.
And where did you go from Russia with this invitation? Where did you go?
We did go to Vienna.
And how did you get there? Did you go by car, by train, by plane? How did you get to Vienna?
We officially have foreign passports already.
Yeah, but like what type of transportation did you take?
Airplane.
You flew, okay? And what happened when you got to Vienna? Where did you go?
Before, people lived in different places and they've been free to go. We live under supervision in a building, and nobody would let us get out.
So you
And
went
we've
to
been-
Vienna, you went to the consulate to go to Israel? Is that how it worked?
No consulate paperwork. We lived in, what's it called? Замок какой-то.
Some kind of a palace.
Some kind of palace, and police was around. It was,
They wouldn't let you out.
we've been
Right.
the last drop, practically the last call.
So how did you get to Vienna? Your invitation was to Israel, so did you go to Israel first?
No, this is the regular way. All immigration did go through Vienna, Rome, and Israel, I think.
How were you able to change your visa invitation to go to the United States instead of Israel?
We have a relative who came before, and then I don't know what they spoke with us, but we have relatives.
So you petitioned once you were there that you wanted to go to the United States.
Yes.
And did you have to get another visa to the United States from your father that he would take care
No,
of
it
you?
was enough.
Okay.
Nobody did take care of us. We started to work very fast.
How did it feel to leave Russia? Were you happy, excited? What was it like to leave Russia and get to Vienna, and then from Vienna to get to the United States? How did you feel?
If we fight for this for so long that it was just worried to start new life, but we've been very, very, very happy.
when you and your son left,
We did not
did you
worry.
have any other family left in Russia? Your father was gone, your mother had passed away. Was there anybody left in Russia that was your family?
Not close family.
Okay. So how did you get from Vienna to the United States? How did you get there? Did you have to take a boat? Did you take a train and then a plane? How did you get to the United States?
You know, the road was established for many years. So from Vienna to Rome, from Rome to New York, from New York, whoever, different places, whoever,
So
relatives.
from Vienna to Rome, you took a train?
Yeah.
And then from Rome, you flew to New York?
Yeah.
And what happened in New York? Did that become your new home?
No,
Where did you go from New York?
to Atlanta.
To Atlanta. And how did you get to Atlanta?
Flying.
Did you fly? Did you take a train?
Flying.
Okay. So when you got to Atlanta, is this where your father lived? In
Yeah.
Atlanta?
My brother, both brothers at this time,
Okay.
and father, right?
And did any local Jewish organization help you once you got to Atlanta?
Absolutely. Jewish Federation and
How did Jewish Federation help you?
very much.
What did they do for you? Did they find you an apartment?
Yeah, they found the apartment and they helped a lot.
Did they help you find a job?
No, they did the best they could.
And what did it feel like to be on United States soil in Atlanta? Did you reunion with your father and brother? What was that like? What did that feel like?
It was a good feeling. It was scaring and uncertain and start all over. But we didn't get what we've been fighting for.
And how did you? What did you first live with your father, or did you have your own apartment?
No, for a while, my father lived for a while with my oldest brother, but then he lived with us for a little bit. And then he lived in senior living.
And what about
He wanted it. He wanted to be with his
and
own.
what about your son? Did he enrolled in school? You enrolled him in the local public schools, your child?
We came in May. So we did go to Jewish camp, to Jewish Community Center camp, and asked to let him be around to volunteer. And he worked for summer there. They paid him $100, and he picked up English and did a very good job. Stay with kids of the.
How did you learn English?
How did I learn English? Only English, no Russian, no close. All the friends didn't get. It was tough time because we came much later, and some families, did go through. Some immigrants did go through the tough times, and who liked it, who didn't. So we kind of isolated himself. Ed did go to yeshiva and worked from day one. And I did all kind of different stuff, eventually, step by step.
How did you start belong to synagogue? Did you start doing more Jewish celebrations here, or did you do anything different here in the United States?
No, we started definitely practice Judaism, definitely, yeah.
Did your son have a bar mitzvah here?
Yes.
How did that feel to be able to have the freedom to have that bar mitzvah?
Mhm.
Did it?
Good. Really, you know, almost every family goes through the tough times, get out, get in, and so on. So
So you experienced anti-Semitism in Russia. You very much wanted to come to the United States. Did you experience any anti-Semitism in the United States at all? Did you have any experience here with any anti-Semitism?
I didn't.
Quick break.
Did you?
So when you came here to Atlanta, you had your family. Were there any other families or people that helped you in the Jewish community here?
Everybody helps to a
Did
certain
any
degree.
family adopt you and take care of you?
My father had very close relationship with Steels because they both speak Yiddish, and he met them in not. I don't remember where they met him, or he just came to the Jewish community over Shalom. They came, yeah, they met over Shalom, and they incredible people, and been friends for a long, long time.
So what happened was your father was here before you and knew some people, and this family, the Steels, how do you spell their name?
Steel.
L or
I think it's
I-E-L.
Stiel.
IL.
So they helped you. How did they help you? What did they do for you? Did they bring you food?
No, we did not need any food. You know,
Did they
whatever.
take you shopping?
Yeah, they shopping and my father was after I told you he had this heart attacks in Russia. He 7.5 years lived on borrowed time.
Right.
But he was so optimistic. So they did really been close to him very, and it's
Okay.
in temple not in temple in over Shalom. They visited him sometime in the hospital, and then we became friends.
And what did America feel like? Did it feel wealthy, abundant? How did it feel different than Russia? Did it feel different than Russia?
Not different.
Lifestyle?
Definitely, but you know, you found yourself in with practically a new country without language, without certain skills, which goes with. And a lot of families had a very hard time adapting.
How did you become part of a small Russian Jewish community here? Did it kind of create like a family, a group of Russian?
No, I did not become really, because by the time we came, they already been here a few times. They had their own issues and problems and divorces and marriages and, you know. And at this time, I needed only to speak English.
Right. So did you go to school to learn English?
Did I go to school? Yeah, I guess I started to walk very fast doing different things. So
Did you join
mostly TV.
TV? So you learned English a lot by
That.
watching TV.
And then I did make lunches in Paris for $10 to don't know who, but at least they speak English.
And did you join a synagogue here?
Yeah.
What,
Join the temple
the temple.
very fast, very young.
Um, do you remember getting naturalized? Did you go to a
Yes.
ceremony?
Yes.
What was
definitely.
that like for you to get naturalized? To,
Very exciting, scary too.
and did
I
you,
actually did not get naturalized from first. We'll talk about it. What
how did it happen?
I don't know. I didn't probably. I think it's so complicated, so I didn't study.
So you had to take a
the-
test,
the-
right?
Right.
A citizenship
Then,
test.
right. Then I had to. Let's talk about your citizenship.
Okay, so after you took the test, you had to go and have a
Yeah,
swearing
sure.
ceremony. And was that at the courthouse? Was it with just you and your son together? How was it? What was it? What was the ceremony like?
After the with Ed first, Ed first,
He did his, and then you did yours later.
right. And
Okay.
interesting thing, very exciting actually, happened that he already been in college, and so kids, a group of kids did go for lunch, for dinner, and when the time was to pay, the server said it's paid for you
Oh, very nice. For his naturalization.
for his dinner.
Very nice.
And actually, what the person on, because it was few people, so everybody heard what they've been talking, and so somebody who was naturalized and immigrated paid, and he said, "Wish you the best," and so, because years ago I wasn't the same,
Right.
and now I can pay for.
So
It
nice.
was so nice.
So I know Russia and all sorts of things have changed over the years since you've been there. Were you ever able to go back to Leningrad
Yeah.
after you left? What was that like? Were you nervous they might not let you out?
No, I was not nervous. It was already different time. It's when it started perestroika, so it was different time. We didn't know it last or not, but it's this time it was strange, but it was free, and on absolutely different level. They build a lot in this time. It's different. It's a different city. It just did not last. It was too much.
And why did you want to go back? Was there any family there you wanted to see, or you just, that was home to you? Why did you go back to Leningrad?
Friends. Ed had a job in Russia, in Leningrad, after graduation. Boris' nephew,
Boris, your second husband.
my second husband, had a nephew who got a job in Leningrad, working for American companies. So we definitely did visit, and we did had a tour and stuff in Leningrad. Then we visited a few times because still had friends.
So you had friends, you had your son have a job there, you had a nephew had a job there. So as long as you
And
could
soon
go,
as a tourist, you know.
As a tourist.
As a tourist. And now I so much want to walk Leningrad and
So you
as a tourist.
you just said yes to doing this interview. Why did you say yes? Why did you want to do this interview? What story do you want to leave behind?
The story that anti-Semitism exists, and now we have another story. It's not better.
Not better?
what's happening with Ukraine, it's not bad. It's the same thing.
So we're in it.
It's siege and homicide.
So you were there, you came here, better life, avoid anti-Semitism is what you just said.
Right.
And now you see what's going on with Ukraine. How does it make you feel?
Scaring. Scaring for everything of everybody. Говорят, земной шар, он круглый.
Circle.
Земной шар. We all related, all countries related. It's really scaring.
So you said you wanted to share your story on tape. You started off on the
So the people would,
road of life,
right.
and
So
now
people
you
would-
ended up in a different road of life here in the United States. What do you think about when you look at your history?
Happy we're here, proud of country, proud of ourselves, proud of all the people around us who help us and supported us mentally all the way.
Just stop for a minute, David. So you have grandchildren?
Oh, thank God, yeah.
What do your grandchildren know about your story or your history?
They know a little, but not much yet. They're too little. Now they growing up, Abby might be a little bit more introduced. And
what would you want them to know?
that we need to work hard, respect yourself and everybody around, and work hard and know what is the truth, where to go.
And what do you want them to know about your story, about your history?
We're very proud of ourselves, and we've been fighting to be better ourselves and to give them better opportunities.
Stop. Okay, so now we are interviewing you, Sophia Heiken, with your son. What's your name?
Ed Heiken.
Okay, and is Ed your birth name?
Well, Eduard was the birth name, then it became Edward, then it became Ed.
When you came to
The United States.
United States. So we've interviewed your mom. How much did you know of your mother's story as a young child of what she went through during World War II?
Well, you know, when we left Russia, Soviet Union, I was 14. So I'm not sure that I knew a lot of the story, you know, as a 14-year-old. What have I learned in the past, 30 years? Probably quite a bit.
So when you were a child, you did not know about the road to life or your mother's experience as a young child?
So I knew about road to life. I knew that she was born during the siege of St. Petersburg, and I knew that's how they got out. My grandfather, her father, had lived with us for a few years, so I remember some of the stories that he would tell. So I think I knew probably quite a bit about the World War II experience.
And what was that like to learn about World War II? How did it fit in with your life at that time?
I mean, I think maybe part of it was just like a sort of a piece of history. I mean, I think part of it is that it sounded like he had contributed to the war effort by having worked on and relocated that plant and sort of doing all that stuff. So that sounded pretty good. I knew that she had an older brother than Naum, the much older brother. But I don't think I knew much about the middle brother, one who died.
From the bomb.
Yeah, from the bomb.
Uh-huh.
Actually, up until a couple of months ago, since we started this conversation, I knew that there was a brother, but I didn't know really circumstances of his death.
Did you know if any of your families did not get out on the road to life or were part of the siege of Leningrad? Is there any family history on that?
I don't really know sort of more much about that. But then, she had mentioned that there was a younger brother, Michael, and I knew that there were 12, brothers and sisters. And I do have a memory that one of them worked for the river cruises or something, and we would sometimes go to his place of work, and he would give us extra food or whatever. So I knew that my grandfather was part of this sort of extended clan, and I mean, I guess to me it seemed like they were kind of helping each other out. I like that part. It was kind of cool for I mean, I must have been, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, and
So your grandfather talked about the war years. Did your mom talk to you about them?
Sophia?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I mean, she was a child. I guess I didn't expect that she would have.
Talk to you as a child. Tell you
About the war? Not really. No.
Do you think it?
Although I knew where they lived. I mean, she said they lived in a communal apartment, and so I think we all knew where that apartment was, and we would walk by it, and would point out and say, "Hey, that we used to live there." And then when she said, her first apartment, I certainly knew where that was. Yeah.
And how old are your children?
17 and 14.
So have you ever talked to them about your mother's experience during World War II, Sophia's experience during World War II, or has it just not come up yet?
No, I think they know I mean, I think they know sort of a general concept of Leningrad, the siege of Leningrad, and all that. I mean, I think the thing about Leningrad is it's one of those few cities in the world that impact sort of the psyche of the people. I mean, maybe New York, maybe. So it's one of those people where the physical location kind of impacts the way you think, the way you live, and it's got bridges, it's got rivers, it's very pretty. So I think that they know about the siege of Leningrad and how people died, and I think they know that she was evacuated, but I don't think they sort of comprehend the full extent of it.
And since you both came from Russia, Leningrad, here to the United States together, how did you feel as your mother talked about her story being Jewish? Where did your Jewish identity come from?
Well, I mean, I think that I always knew that we were Jewish. I think that, I mean, matzah stories, I certainly remember that. I mean, I think you told me, or grandfather Abraham told me that I guess they would all go to the synagogue once a year because I guess the lore was that they would photograph people, and so if you had a job, you could lose your job if you went to the synagogue. But I guess around Passover, there were so many people there that they couldn't sort of catch everybody. So that was like a communal event. So, so matzah, I remember certainly, we had that around. And I think I was told the reason why we had it around is because around that time, like that was one time of the year where like you weren't afraid, kind of a thing, Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that's that's sort of what I thought. And again, because I think my grandfather had so many brothers and sisters, and he spoke Yiddish, and they spoke Yiddish to each other, occasionally. I certainly knew that there was, more to the story.
Besides your grandfather, did you ever meet any of his siblings, Mishna, Michael? Did you ever meet any of them?
Well, I probably met a couple of them. I don't remember which one was the, with the river cruises. Who was that? Was that Michael or was that somebody
Leonid.
else? That's another brother. So I don't remember all of them, but I'm sure I met a few of them. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what happened to all of the ones that stayed in Zlobin, because Zlobin probably was overrun by the Germans, probably in the first few days of World War II. So I don't know whatever happened to that part of the family.
So did you and Sophia, your mom, ever research what happened to any family members, impacted by the German?
I have not. Do you know whatever happened to those who stayed in Schloben or whatever?
No, probably nobody stayed by the time. Probably everybody escaped. But even in immigration here, it's so spread. I'm the youngest. Nobody knows me in the
Although
older generation goes away. The youngest actually was looking for something, and Michael Simonovsky found who is the main surgeon in this clinic. You talk to him, yes.
yeah, so with 23andMe, I think when I first did it, I had the list comes up and somebody is your, I guess, second cousin, and so I had emailed that person, and in fact, it is true. It is your first cousin,
Yeah.
who is a physician.
I see. So your father also was from Russia. Did you ever hear any stories from his side from World War II?
Well, I mean, I kind of know that there's. I think he was a 3-year-old child somewhere in Ukraine. So he lived in Leningrad, but I think he was visiting his grandparents in Ukraine, and I think he was 3 years old, and I think that he was evacuated from Ukraine like in the first week of the war and sent somewhere in Ufa or somewhere else.
In Ural Mountains.
In Ural Mountains, and I think that was just like he was part of a mass evacuation from there.
So, do you feel that because you had both parents that had to survive the war, that it doesn't matter what the answer is, impacted you in any way or your perspective on life?
Well, probably not so much my parents because both of them were so little, but maybe the grandparents, the fact that they kind of found a way to survive and keep their families alive. So maybe just the idea of figuring out how to survive, thinking on your feet, that kind of a thing.
And because of this experience, Sophia, you talked about being evacuated, and then the anti-Semitism. How did you feel when you hear this about the anti-Semitism, or perhaps experienced it yourself in Russia? How does that sit with you?
Well, I think that I was, very aware, maybe in part because of, what they told me, right? I mean, I guess if they're aware of anti-Semitism, I don't think they hid it from me, kind of a thing. You mentioned something that I had an anti-Semitism of my own. What are you thinking of? I don't really remember, but tell me, maybe.
You don't remember when one time you did go to the Pionierский лагерь?
Like a summer camp, yeah.
Summer camp, and it was to get in summer camp. It was not easy, but he was a good student, and he was active with social part, and it was very far, and he didn't want to go, but I talked him in because I said, I need to go to the social part too. Every organization had.
This was a Jewish summer camp? Or
No.
just a summer camp?
No, just summer camp.
There was no such thing as
Every
a Jewish summer camp.
organization in the summer, doesn't matter what, I'm talking about job related,
Right.
needed to go to, how they call it,
To the fields. They
to the
basically have
fields,
to send everybody to, help
to help to get
collect the crops.
Right.
That's right. And I could not, because it was just my father sick or something, and I could not, and they let me do it. And all of a sudden, okay, it's a camp, and I said, okay, I'm going. And all of a sudden he calls and says, come to pick me up, or I walk.
Yeah, I remember leaving the camp, but I don't remember why did I leave? What did I?
Because somebody told you that you're Jewish, and I
Maybe
said,
that's
he
probably,
is
it's
right.
probably true.
And it was so far. He goes to the bosses of the camp and said, I need to call my mother, but it's no phone, it's just somewhere. They said, we can't do it. He said, if you don't do it, I run.
I see.
And so somebody called me, or somebody did take him. It was in nowhere. And he said, you better take me, or I run.
Well, I mean, I think maybe the
That's-
other, yeah.
That was
I think maybe
something.
the other thing, and this I guess is right before we left, is you know, in school I think there were three levels of sort of the communist party, whatever. So there was the pioneers when you were like a little kid. Then there was something called Komsomol, which is like maybe like middle and early high school, and then from there you can join the Communist Party. And I guess you know we knew we were going to leave eventually, so we're leaving. And so, if you were, I guess, a member, I don't remember, if you're a member of the Communist Party, you have to leave the party, and it's a big deal. And then, even if you're a member of this middle layer, like Komsomol, then, they parade you in front of your school and they say, what a traitor you are because you were giving up, Mother Russia and you want to go to, our enemy Israel, yada, yada, yada. So the goal was for me not to like join this organization so that I wouldn't then have to leave it. And so I think that the excuse that I came up with was, and I was a pretty good student, but I said, it's such a big honor to join this, Komsomol, young communist organization that I promised my mother that I would only do it when I had all A's, and I have a B in woodworking, so I can't do it until, I get better. And of course I never got better.
Um, so, Sophia, I know you came here, and did you want to talk about your story? I know your father did with Ed. Did you want to talk about your story with your children, or did you want to? How did you feel about doing that?
No, we're going to tell the story with children different. And because I'm always better because, like, Dan calls me and asks what you do, and I said, now I am doing to have this interview because, and I read just the books, how terrible it is, and it's never again, but we need to know more and talk about it. And so he says, it's crazy, it can be again. So I said, that's we need to talk.
Do you think with your mom doing this interview, you've learned more about her past than you knew before?
Right, I'm sure, yeah. Yeah, because I think the interview just kind of forces somebody to remember and to share. And I'm sure some things I knew, but there were a few things that I didn't.
What does it inspire you in any way in terms of your children or in terms of community work?
Of course, like the lecturer said, it's you kind of hope that the history doesn't repeat itself. So knowing some of the history, knowing what to watch out for, knowing what's important, those are all good things. And part of it also is that a lot of these experiences are not necessarily documented. So to the extent that some of this information, her story is one way, somebody else's story could be completely different, and everybody's experience is different. But nonetheless, that's part of growing up, I guess, at that time in the Soviet Union.
So you talked to Sophia that you went back to Leningrad to visit Ed when he worked there, and you said it changed a lot. What was it like for you together to both be there and witness history before, during, and after that leave? How did you view life there?
The people we visit, and they've been successful. We didn't really, it's not actually but it's your father's part of a family. He was professor of physics in Ufa. when it all started and he lost the job, he laid on the sofa, glued to the sofa for a year. And then he realized that, so he moved to Moscow and opened a business. He was very successful, very fine. But when it started, it was scary because they all had охрана,
Oh, they have bodyguards. Yeah.
bodyguards.
Right.
And it didn't last long. So yes, it was exciting, but it was scary that it's not going to last long.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about this experience, about your mother's history, any other thing that you want to add this week?
No, I think it's sort of great to get this on the record. I mean, that's maybe a story of perseverance and her own way, and it's good to have her voice along the voices of other people's stories, because again, everybody's story is different, but everybody's lived experience is different. But this is hers, and it's good for me to know it. It's good for my kids to know it. So it's good for others to know it. I mean.
But watching what's happening now, and my story to run the story of the siege and the war, I practically tell the story of the story. So I picked up a few books, and it's so scary because I did not read much. It was some other, but how it started, how it came, it's so scary. So what we're watching today, it's even more scary.
And in reading those books, does it make you see or feel?
Make me look at the different time, what's going on today.
How lucky you were that you got to evacuate?
No, this is a different story, definitely. That we survived, it's just evacuated and everything. But, like I say, we're talking about Holocaust. It's one thing. Talking about the war itself and siege,
Right.
and especially like Leningrad, because it's so strategic and so calculated, and what's happening. And people, not people, the animals.
Well, I think part of it is that, in the Soviet Union, I mean, the government propaganda was so strong. And so, the way the history books were presented, I think maybe now, you're finding out that not all of it was the way it was presented to be.
That's right. Whatever at school we read, and that was differently presented. But after, I did not, I'm not historian to go back and read history as a history. Now, it's not only my story. I picked up some book from library and read in English why Leningrad, why the story of Leningrad, everything. It's scary, right?
Well, thank you both so much. And we really appreciate you doing this interview.
Thank you.
What is this a picture of?
It's my father, my mother Esther, my Aunt Maria, and my second mother, and their brother, which was killed in the war. And it's all before the war. Young.
What is this a picture of?
It's my father's parents.
Did they survive the war?
No.
What is this a picture of?
This picture of my mother before the war in year 1937 in Kislovodsk.
Where is this picture taken?
Kislovodsk. It's a resort.
What is this a picture of?
It's a picture of my mother Maria and me.
And how old?
6, 7.
Who is this?
It's my brother Naum when he was in the army.
The Russian army?
Russian army. Yeah.
What is this a picture of?
It's my Aunt Maria and my Aunt Hannah, and I don't remember who is this.
What is a picture here?
It's a picture of the class of 48, and it's me.
You want to do that again without the cough? So this is another school picture. Tell us about this picture.
That's probably next year, and that is me.
Do you remember this school?
The class? School?
What is this a picture of?
It's a registration of birth of Edward.
And who is this?
It's me.
And who is this?
It's his father.
And this is Ed.
And as I said,
So what are these pictures of?
it's pictures of little Ed. And I welcome him to sit down, and he is crying.
And how old is Ed here?
Probably 6 months. And this one is a little older.
What is this a picture of?
This is Ed, 10 years old, in his music school with his teacher
And this was taken where?
in Leningrad.